Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talks. It's so nice to have you back for 2021. It's our first show of the year. And how was your New Year's, Michael? Was it good?
It was pretty low key. So like
Yeah.
in British Columbia, we're pretty much just locked down. So I
Yeah.
I watched some
Same.
TV, ordered some food. That was about it.
Yeah. I feel like everyone probably had a pretty relaxed New Year, but it's kind of nice after the crazy year we had in 2020. So super happy that it's 2021. And welcome back on the Monday. I know we usually do these on Wednesdays, but it's going to be Mondays moving forward. And just before we hop into things, let us know in the chat where you're joining from. I always love to hear where our merchants are from, just because you can really do it from anywhere around the world. So yeah, let us know in the chat, and maybe let us know too if you're just getting started with Oberlo and you're brand new to drop shipping. Because I know 2021 always brings in starting new goals, doing whatever it is you wanted to do in 2020. Maybe you've set 2021 as your time to get started on things. So let us know. Oh, we even have Berlin, Paris, USA. Oh, that's awesome. So great to hear. And
Oh,
like
Canada.
Michael mentioned, Canada, yes, Canada. Both Michael and I are in Canada. As he mentioned, he's in BC. I'm in Ottawa. So nice and early for Michael there. So yeah, just for anyone who's brand new, who's never joined in, Real Talk is essentially a show where we go over everything about how to optimize your business. So whether that's marketing tips or just any way to 10x your shop. So we're always changing it. Each week is a new topic. And why don't we, before we get started into the outline for today, Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and why I guess you're worth listening to?
Sure. So for anyone who's just joining us today, this will be new. For everyone who's joined us every other time, this will be a repeat. But so I've been with Oberlo for about 3 years now. Helped out a lot of merchants. Looked at their store, see what we can suggest. So basically what we're doing here, just in message format, is what I've been doing for years. I also actually worked with Carissa to create a webinar that was a couple of years ago for any veterans who may be with us that talked about getting your store started. So I've basically been doing this for years, trying to help out merchants as best as I can. So I think I've got a few insights. Hopefully you'll find it valuable. Carissa, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, same with Michael. We've been doing this for a long time. I've been with Shopify and Oberlo for over 5 years now, which is pretty crazy. And like you said, we've seen so many different stores of all different kinds and seen how different merchants have been successful in a number of different ways. So I definitely think we have some great tips we can share of what we've learned, whether it's through experience, whether it's through testing things out, or just what we've seen other merchants do that have worked. And awesome. It's exciting to see Danny said, finally starting my store. So that's super exciting. And Smart Hero's back again. Hello from the USA. So a little bit about today. I'm super excited about the topic. We're going to be chatting about how to build hype or excitement around a product launch. So you might be thinking, product launch, like I'm a drop shipping store, you don't have product launches, but you can totally use this even if you're drop shipping, and we'll chat a little bit about that below. So that's kind of the topic of today. And as per usual, we're going to go into two different sections. One is a hot tip section, which is some kind of a marketing tool or a success story or whatever it is we found interesting that we want to share with you. And then we're going to go into a toolbox section, which could be some kind of a resource, a podcast, or an app, or whatever it might be that, again, we've been loving that you might be as well too. So just as a reminder, ask any questions you like in the chat. We'll definitely try and address them. So feel free to just message us whatever you'd like. And as a reminder, it's recorded, so you can always go back and rewatch this as well. So don't stress out about taking too many notes. You can always go back and jot down those notes later. Just join in, participate, and have lots of fun as we start the first Real Talk of the new year. So today's topic, as I mentioned, is how to build hype around a product. So really that question is what makes a difference between a product that won't sell at all and those that completely fly off the shelves. And one of those things could be hype or excitement is definitely a big part of that. So just because you're drop shipping doesn't mean you can't use these same principles. It's especially great moving into the new year where so many people right now are setting new goals, are starting brand new things. So why not try and tap into that movement and that energy that people are already feeling and kind of working towards. So even though, you know, this is the perfect time of year to get started and build hype around a product, you really can use this any time of the year as well. So don't feel like you only need to use it in the new year. You can use it any time of year, which is cool. So along the way, definitely share any examples you can think of as well, like I mentioned in the chat. But yeah, I would say let's get started on some ways that you could build hype around a product. So Michael, why don't you start by letting us know the first thing that's important to do when you're considering how to build that hype around a product?
Sure. Actually, I'm just going to jump in and ad lib a little bit here because
Sure.
that's what the show is all about. So hype isn't just for your customer. It can be for you as well. Like if you're building up hype and you see that excitement and you see that interest build, that really helps you stay energized when you're pushing towards the launch of the product. I don't think I'd noted down to mention that, but it just popped into my head. So that's really good because you want to stay motivated. And since it's the new year, that's the theme we're kind of going with right now. If you're starting something new, you got to keep that motivation up. And this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I love that.
So going back on the track, first thing I would say is who are your customers? Like, so you've got a product. Now, what sort of audience would be interested in that product? I know a lot of people might think of audience first and then fill a need, but the flip side is choosing that product and then figuring out who this is for. What kind of groups or events do these people participate in? Like, do you go to Facebook, Instagram groups? Are there, I know it's a little harder with a pandemic going on, but are there even live events out there that you could go and just find some information from your audience from there, like trade shows, things like that, Comic-Con, like whatever you're selling, things along those lines. Find that target audience and really kind of figure out what makes them tick. That's the first step, I would say, is really focusing in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think before you hop into ways of implementing and coming up with all these marketing tips and tools and ideas that you could reach out, like Michael said, first really define who your customers are and who it is you want to target. And even in some previous shows, we've talked about how to solve the problem or how to really nail down who your target audience might be based on the problem you're solving. So definitely check those out as well. But like you said, it's the first most important thing. Who are your customers? So as soon as you have that figured out, the next thing is going over how to actually reach out. So we're going to have a few different examples of how you can reach out. The first example could be a blog. So say on your website, you have a blog which is doing really well. It has a decent amount of engagement. Creating a blog post is a really great way to create that excitement, talking a little bit about the product. You could talk about the benefits of it or how it's going to improve your customers' lives or whatever you think would make people excited about the product itself. So a blog is a really great way to start with marketing. Now, I mean, not everyone has blogs which get a lot of engagement, a lot of people viewing and reading, and that's totally okay too. Another thing you can explore is actually being featured on somebody else's blog. So if there are blogs that are doing really well, you could always reach out to some of those blogs and ask if they'd want to do some kind of a collaboration or if they'd be interested in writing about your product launch release and let them know you would send them a product early. So it's just kind of exciting for them because they're like, oh, I get early access to this product. And yeah, I'll do a blog post to write about it. And those, because those blogs already have engagement and followers, you kind of are tapping into their market of followers there. So yeah, I think that's kind of a cool way to reach out is a blog is one way to start.
Yeah, like you could connect. Sorry, I stumble over my words there. You could connect with someone who's got a travel blog if you're selling things that have to do with travel or adventure gear, like anything along those lines. And this is like, you'll notice that we try and layer things. So we talked about finding your audience. While doing that, you might come across these blogs of people within those groups. So reach out to them. That's the perfect opportunity to see if they can get you featured on their blog, as Carissa mentioned. Yeah, so just take a look for that wherever you're looking for that audience. Check that out, number one. See if there's a blog. And if you have what you blog yourself, cross post, like do guest posts back and forth, be featured, offer that reciprocity. That'll get you a long ways.
Totally. Oh, and I like, just before you hop into the next one, Michael, Northwoods had said, I like checking specific Instagram profile comments. So kind of going back to finding your customer, that's a great way to find people who are interested in products like yours or whatever. If you have an account or another site which is selling something similar and you see who's commenting, those are great target audience people too. So yeah, I love that. Okay, sorry. Don't mean to
No,
interrupt,
awesome.
Michael.
No, we want we want everybody engaged in contributing to this conversation. So yeah, throw those comments in there. Actually, the natural progression, I guess, of the blog post is influencers. Like that, they seem to be maybe the more popular option these days. So someone on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Is it TikTokers now? Tick,
However you say it.
I'll figure that one out. So just this, and you'll uncover this in your search for an audience. You'll see who's popular, who's speaking to that audience. Reach out to them and see if they might want to feature your product. Typically, I mean, there's going to be a couple ways to do this. Some might, if they're not super huge, might suggest just a trade. Like, so you give them some of the product and then they'll review it and talk to their audience for you. And that's all you'll need to do. Others, it's a business for them, so they will charge a fee. But if they have a large group of followers, then typically that's a pretty good idea. Like, because you're going to be spending money on marketing anyway. So if you can do it, like, someone has a wide reach while you're just getting started, that's a fantastic way to do it. Reach out to them, see what they have to offer. The ones that typically charge, I think there'll be more. Actually, I shouldn't say more. Everybody's different. Just talk to them, send them a DM, see what they have to say, show them what you're all about. I think that's kind of the next logical step to take. Yeah, so just as an example on that, in case you're wondering if you're selling like kitchen supplies and utensils, find someone who could be a cook or has like a chef kitchen or something along those lines, and you've got a fancy new gadget that you want them to feature. That could be really fun to see. Like, it's great for you too. Going back to the whole energy through line that I mentioned for the new year, seeing that product that you're selling right out there in the world is a great way to keep motivated.
Totally. And I mean, I know I personally watch a lot of like cooking shows on Instagram. Like there's some accounts that I follow and they make little like Instagram reels or videos of them cooking, and it's always fun to see like what they're using. So yeah, I think of it as a marketing tool, and I know it can sometimes be expensive like Michael mentioned, but worth exploring, even if you can find influencers who maybe don't have a huge following but big enough that you could still kind of afford to work with them, or on platforms like he mentioned, like TikTok, which is kind of a little bit untapped. So
it's new.
Yeah, it's new. So that's always a good thing.
Well, newish. I like the term TikTokers. I'm going to use that from now on. Actually, I just want to point to James's comment. It's true. Like, when you're reaching out to influencers, you do want to do your due diligence, like see what you can find out about them, just to make sure that they do have a good audience engagement. It's getting a little better, I think, but in the past, there's been influencers that have a huge number of bots for their followers, so it looks like the reach is larger than it actually is. So just do a little bit of research, see what you can find out online. The information is typically pretty easy to find if you're just looking around for it.
Totally. Just look at the comment section of their pictures. Are people actually commenting? Are people liking it? Like, are people actually engaging, or do they have 100,000 followers and nobody really commenting on their post? Like, that shows something. So I would always say, not a huge follow amount, but a lot of engagement. That's the best type of influencer to find. So
for sure.
Cool. So we've got blogs, we've got influencers. The next one I wanted to share was email updates. So another great thing you can use is just your contact list. So you can always send out emails to your customers, either those who have had a past order or those who have signed up to your newsletter. And just as kind of a hot tip, as that, I always suggest having a newsletter sign up in your footer and offering like a 10% discount on your first order just to get those emails. So just as a side note, great way to get emails. But once you have that email list, reach out to them and let them know about this upcoming product. You can do different things like, for example, you could share like a launch date of the product, so that way they know what time it's coming. You could even do something like a sneak preview or how-to tutorials, depending on what it is. So anything that could get them excited about the item itself. And there's a bunch of ways you can kind of create a fun, mysterious, or exciting or engaging email that gets people thinking like, whoa, what's this thing coming out? That's cool. Like, I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, email updates was the next one.
Yeah, on that, like on that same line, when because we're talking about building hype, you might not want to give everything away. Like you might want to keep a little bit of mystery. We've seen marketing campaigns all over the world where it's like just a really close screenshot or just a small little tidbit about, like, you're not revealing the whole product. You're building that interest. People love a good mystery. I mean, I'm sure we're going to find out that all of those monoliths around the world were just a marketing campaign for Toblerone. So like we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, do that. People love a mystery. That's going to get them engaged. So if you already have started to build up a following and you want to launch a new product, throw it out into the world, make a game out of it. Like see, it's great to see the interaction with everybody that's following you on that, like all of the audience you've reached, their guesses as to what it is. Yeah, like everybody loves a mystery.
Yeah.
So just do something like that.
I mean, a great example of that, even if I think of like clothing lines, for example, sometimes they'll showcase like just a part of the garment, like maybe just like this little bit of it or something where you're like, oh, that looks like a really cool new piece of clothing or whatever it would be, maybe showing a close up of the fabric itself. Even I find usually when you're trying to do close up things, video is the best option. Like, I don't know, as a really specific example, say you're selling like a brand new dress, maybe you have this like little video clip of just part of the dress or the bottom of the dress blowing in the wind or whatever it is, and you're like, whoa, like that looks like, I'm excited to see what this new item is coming in from the shop. So I don't know, like I love clothing, so I love looking at stuff like that. So something like that would be like, oh man, like this looks cool, I can't wait to see like what dress is coming out or whatever it is that's coming out. Or you can even do something like showing some behind the scenes footage. So maybe it's like part of a photo shoot or something you're doing, and you just show little bits of clips and then you just put a date. So maybe you don't even mention like, hey, we're coming out with a new clothing line. You're just literally showing these pictures and images or a video of the photo shoot and then a date. And people are like, whoa, what's this mean? Is this a launch date? Is this coming out on this date? Like, you just want to create that excitement and that like enticement of like what's going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's a great thing, is think about being a little bit mysterious, because then it gets people feeling like they're playing that game of like, you know, ooh, what's this coming out? Because that's always exciting. And what else we have? Keep these live videos coming. Oh, thank you. We definitely
we
will.
can do that. Yep.
Yeah, and creating YouTube videos. Sorry, Northwood said creating YouTube videos might be a thing as well for a product. Absolutely. Yeah, if you have these videos and you're sending out emails, like don't think about like, okay, I'm just going to send out an email campaign. You could have YouTube videos, you can put on your Instagram, you could send an email, you could do a blog post. Like you can use that same information and really post it on multiple platforms. So absolutely. Okay, cool. So that was the mystery part. The next one I wanted to chat about, which Michael kind of chatted a little bit about earlier too, was events. So I know it's kind of a weird time in the world and there's not a lot of live events happening, but you know, maybe as things start to open up, that'll shift a little bit. But definitely think about having a product promoted early at an event. So, you know, if there isn't a live event or a virtual event happening, think about like, say it's, I don't know, some kind of like a beauty con event and you're selling beauty products. Maybe if there's some kind of a way you could get into that and you could be showcasing this new product, you've ordered a few example, like sample products for yourself. You go there, you showcase this new product, and you could even take pre-orders, which is kind of cool. So, you know, you could go maybe sell a few products, take some pre-orders and act as if you don't have the products yet. You only have these few items so far. And again, that can get people excited if you're just showcasing that product at some kind of a live event that's going to have all of your target audience there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. That's typically one thing we don't talk about too much with drop shipping, just as an aside, is having the physical product at locations where people can see it. But that's pretty invaluable too. Like if you have it there, they can see the quality, and yeah, it's great. It's a great way to do it in the future, I suppose, when we can see people in person again. Yeah, so I'm just trying to think if there's any other examples for events. Like right now, since it is mostly a virtual world, you could always try. I'm sure there's a bunch of virtual events that'll be coming up. I haven't seen any myself. I should start looking into that, but that might be easier for the mystery aspect of things. If you're not showing up in person and you want to showcase something at a virtual event, you just show them, you just throw it in front of the camera, show a little bit of the product off, something along those lines.
I feel like there's so many live like music events and stuff. So I don't know if there's like some kind of product that would align with that. But yeah, there's plenty of different kinds of lives. So get creative with it and think if there is some
Oh
where your
yeah.
audience might be.
Actually, that's a really good point. Like, since there are a lot of virtual shows going on right now too, like if you happen to decide that you're selling lighting products, look for events that might need lighting products. So it's not just showcasing the event. Look for events that might need the product that you're selling.
Yeah,
So that's a good one too. We sort of talked about this before, but video demos are a super great way to build hype. We touched on it, so I'll just reiterate it briefly. Like, if you can get that product and then create a great video showcasing what it does and the need it fulfills, that's huge. People want to see it, not in person, I suppose, since it's digital, but they want to see it in action. Pictures can only do so much. So that I know as a consumer, I really like to see that, and that usually tips the balance for me. Like if I see that product in use and I was on the fence, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that answered my questions. So that's a short one, but I just wanted to reiterate on that one. Like, that's a really good way to build up that hype for the product.
well, I think video is just so engaging. Like image can go so far, and I do love image, but a good video with some good music and showcasing an item like that can really, take your engagement to the next level. So, super important.
Something, well, sorry, I'm just going to throw in there really quickly. I mentioned this in past shows, but like on AliExpress, if you see the same picture with a different thing on a shirt, for example, this is a super simple example of it. A lot of the images you see on clothing, if you're not looking carefully, are the same shot, just with the Photoshop on it. And consumers, since we've e-commerce has become such a big thing over the past few years, people notice that. So seeing a video actually showcasing those products is huge. Just want to hammer that home. Videos.
Totally. And actually,
Okay.
yeah, that's what Sabrina just mentioned that as well too. It says video is super important on how the product looks like live. That's exactly it. Just like it's not just an image which could have been photoshopped and adjusted or has nice lighting. It's like literally this is the product. Here's a
Yeah.
video of it. You can see exactly how it looks, how it works, the sizing of it, everything. So yeah, great way to showcase the product and how it actually looks in real life. So yeah, super, super important. The next one is having limited inventory. So I know with suppliers, they usually have thousands of items or hundreds of items available of a certain item. But a big strategy that shops do use to build hype is offering limited quantity. So that, if people are excited about your product and they know you only have like, say, 100 of that item, that will be released, they're likely to buy it as soon as possible because there's a chance that they might miss out on the product itself. So it's not only about like, here's an exciting product that's coming up, it's here's an exciting product coming up, but at the same time, we only have this number of items. So if you are excited about it, make sure to get it when it actually launches. So, sometimes when there is a lot of items, like I'd mentioned, people take the time to decide, they add it to their cart, they think about it, blah, blah, blah. And then before you know it, like a couple weeks have passed by and they're still like deciding if they want to buy that product or not. So, even though this might not lead to as many sales as you'd like, maybe you only do get those 100 sales. You've got to remember as well, too, you're building technically that excitement for the customer of them knowing like, oh shoot, I missed out on this product launch, but I'm so excited for the next product launch. And I'll definitely make sure to be one of the first ones to get that next product because I'm sad I missed out on this product. So don't kind of like let that strategy go behind or think like, oh, I'm losing out on sales. It's a great way to actually, get people excited and engaged and wanting to stay up to date on your products and what's coming out because they know you only have that limited kind of quantity. An example of this, like a pretty obvious example, one of the biggest examples is like sneaker drops. The people who like my boyfriend, he loved buying sneakers, and let me tell you, those sneaker drops are so intense. When it's coming out, you're waiting for the exact second and you try and buy it so quickly. Majority of the time you can't even buy it because they just sell out so quick. But that's like, even though that's kind of an extreme example, it still doesn't mean you can't use that to apply some kind of like urgency to your products. So that's my example for that one.
Well, and you'd mentioned possibly not as many sales, but if it's limited inventory and you're triggering that whole hunter-gatherer psychology section part of the brain, like people want it. It's exclusive. It's exciting. Your price points can be higher too. We see it all the time with sneaker drops. Like Some of those sneakers I'm sure are like $500 easy.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, like and they didn't cost that much. Like
No.
if you were to actually look at the cost, like when you look at AliExpress, for example, and you see a product for $3, if you're selling it for 30 or 40 or even 50, because it's like price doesn't necessarily mean quality. That's why you want to check it. We've talked about that before, but make sure that it's good. You can create that hype and reduce the amount that are available and really charge it for a premium if that's what you want to do, if that's your business model. And if you're only selling a few, like a few hundred of them, for example, because maybe that's all you've got time for, this is a good thing to look into. It's a great way to get started until you can really start scaling your business too. So there's lots of things that limited inventory can help with. And again, like you don't have to price it super low. When supply and demand, when it's scarce, you can have a bit of a higher price point, and people will be happy to pay that.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great mention, is that you don't have to sell things necessarily low price. That limited inventory can mean higher prices. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I say this almost every show because it does come up, and a lot of merchants have talked about it. Just because the product is priced low on AliExpress doesn't mean that you have to sell it for just above that and make a small profit. Unless you have a huge audience and you're going to be doing a huge turnover in sales, like a bunch of sales, price it a little bit higher. Like it's not going to stop people from buying it. I know that's something that people get hung up on. It's not really. As long as you find the audience that wants this and you're marketing well and they find value in it, you can make that a little bit higher. It's totally fine.
And even make sure you always order the product itself to check out the quality too. So
yeah,
order it, check it out, and then you can assess what you think it would actually be worth, and don't be afraid to mark those prices up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We talked about this a little bit before. It's kind of, it goes hand in hand with limited inventory, but like pre-orders or back orders. So it's just kind of an extension of that. I'll just mention it again because doing a pre-order is a great way to make sure you know what's coming up too. Like if you also have a limited quantity with pre-orders, you know what sort of time you're going to have to set aside to fulfill everything and make sure that all of your customers are taken care of. Really, the one thing with pre-orders is it does help build hype, but it also helps you prepare for what you're going to have to do. So that's, I find that super useful. Like on a well-established store, if you're adding a new product, if you only sell a couple of products, for example, and there's a new one, that's going to be a big deal to your current customer base. So take pre-orders, see what sort of interest can be generated by that. Maybe there won't be a whole lot, and it turns out that wasn't a great choice. So pre-orders are great for that too. It helps you test the waters.
Absolutely. And I think a really great, like, recent example of this for me is I recently just bought a really nice camera, and there was like a lens filter that I wanted to put on top of the lens to help with like diffusion and stuff like that. Anyway, so this lens filter, I've been looking at it for a long time. I've been thinking about buying it. And they had a big sale on. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to grab it like over the holidays because there's this sale. But again, I was like, had it in my cart and I still like hadn't purchased it. And then I checked back the next day and it was like, said the certain size and stuff that I'd wanted was on back order and wouldn't be in until January. And then some of the other sizes were on back order until March. And it literally made me think like, oh no, okay, I want this lens as soon as I can. I already know I want it. I'm going to buy it right now and hope it comes by January because I don't want it to then be pushed for pre-orders for March. So again, that was me as a customer. Like I had that urgency to be like, okay, shoot, I'm just going to buy it right now. Let's go. Let's put the order through. I'm not going to procrastinate because I don't want this order to come in like way too late and then I can't be using it until March. So yeah, so I literally bought it right away as soon as I saw those pre-orders and I was like, okay, shoot, buying it right now. I'll get it by January. So that's a great example. And I know we've only got a few more left. For anyone who's brand new, I know it's only half an hour, but we always end up going a little bit over time.
And it's all my fault.
Yeah, all your fault, Michael. Definitely not me. But yeah, I think those are some, really great examples of ways you can build hype. And like I mentioned, even though you technically have the product, you can order it right away. Why not make it seem like you're launching this product? You can definitely do it with drop shipping. So that's just kind of wrapping it all up. It's just, get your audience engaged, get them excited, have your product sought after, and especially with this new year. And people wanting to start new goals and new projects and learn new things, tap into that feeling and that excitement and kind of build it up for your own store. So I think creating hype is super important. You can totally do it with drop shipping and you can do it any time of year. It's just a really great time of year right now. So Let's hop into the hot tip and toolbox section quickly, just as we wrap up for today. So, hot tip, like I mentioned, is some kind of a marketing tip or success story, whatever we've recently come across that we've been loving. And my hot tip is to think about, this is kind of separate, but think about storytelling. And what I mean by this is it's always something you want to keep in the back of mind, whether it's you're creating marketing or videos or trying to, engage your customers. As humans, since the beginning of time, we've always connected through story. Like literally, that's ways we shared our culture. That's ways we shared, anything it might be as humans. And when we were in those communities, is we always told stories, and it's still so deeply rooted and ingrained in us. So don't kind of forget about that when you're building a brand and you're engaging with your customers. Is try and think of the story and the excitement and how you can connect with those customers on that kind of a level. And that's something we could do a whole real talk on. So if that's something you'd like to hear more about, let us know in the comments. And as always, share any examples in there. But that's just something I kind of wanted you all to keep in the back of your mind as you move forward with marketing, branding, all of that is just think about storytelling. So Michael, what do you have for us for a hot tip?
I think the whole show is kind of a bit of a hot tip, honestly, but I typically do this with my hot tips for anyone who's followed us before. I'd like to point out something that we talked about and just kind of hammer that home as something that I think is really, really important. So I'm going to go back to videos. I know we talked about that a little before, but it's sort of an extension of what you just said, Carissa. You have a lot of, like when you're making your own videos, you have a whole lot of creative input. So you're telling your story. So make sure it sticks with your brand and make sure it looks like what your audience would enjoy. I didn't say that very eloquently, but I find it's one of the most powerful ways to represent your store because you have creative control. And if you're not a big I don't even know the word, videographer. Yeah, videographer, like the TikTokers. If you have some friends that are, get them to help you out. You can really, like, a good video that shows who you are and who your story is going to go so far in winning your customers over. Like it's hard to beat, honestly.
Absolutely. Just connect with your customers, right? Just any way you can connect with them. And just because you're drop shipping doesn't mean you can't create a community and a connection with them, right? So yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about, and because I said I always get us over because I talk too much, I'm going to keep doing it. So here we go. Look what we're doing. I mean, you can do something like this for your business to generate hype if you want to. You could have live videos, live blogs like this talking about your products or talking about who you are as a store. You don't have to make it a weekly thing, but doing something like this where you're interacting with your customers, I mean, a little bit different, but it's great. Like you can create some great engagement there. So that's one thing I would suggest too.
And on that note, Michael, it just made me think is people who are doing like podcasts and like live videos and things like that, it's a great way to bring people in who do have a following. So for example, say you're selling some kind of, maybe you're doing cooking products, maybe you start a cooking podcast or show, and then you bring in people and ask if they'd want to be a guest on your show. When you bring those people in to be a guest on your show, those people are also most likely going to share some kind of a post or be like, hey, I was just featured on X podcast or X stream, like check it out here. Like those people are going to share it. That's going to bring their audience over to you. And then they're going to check you out if they loved the show. So great way to market. And people always love talking about themselves. People always love sharing their stories or whatever it is they're doing. So yeah, I love that. And I think that's such a great tip, Michael, is find ways to bring them in. And like I said, people love talking about themselves. So if you can start something like that and it's exciting, it's a great way to get an audience, but also bring other people's audiences in who you're featuring on those podcasts and shows. So on kind of Michael's hot tip, my toolbox tip, which again is some kind of an app or resource, whatever it might be, is actually a YouTube channel that I ran or recently came across. It's a company called Moment. It's like shopmoment.com. That's where actually I got my lens filter that I got for my camera. But they have a great YouTube channel, which actually shows you how to make really amazing, really beautiful, whether it's photography or videography, that you can do all with a smartphone, iPhone, whatever it is. So that's super cool. If anyone's kind of interested in being like, yeah, I'd love to actually see if I can create my own content, but I only have a smartphone, they give you amazing tips for how to record properly, what kind of settings you need. They even have an app you can use so that you can access more features on your phone to create like specific types of slow-mo videos, or you can change your frame rate. You can do all these things. So totally check that out if you are interested. I've been loving kind of the tips they've been sharing. And it's a great way to get started. And just because you only have a smartphone doesn't mean you can't create like really engaging, really awesome content if you do want to get into video.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. That's a good book. So I recommend everyone take a look at that. It talks about the factors of success. Some things are out of our control, but like it offers some great perspective when you're running a business. So yeah, take a look at that. It's not completely related to this, but I just think I found it very helpful. So
it doesn't matter. It's Toolbox. You share whatever things you've been loving. So I'll definitely have to check that out too. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think that's it for today. That's our hot tip toolbox. That's our topic. And what's that name of the book again, Michael?
Outliers by Malcolm
Outliers.
Gladwell.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
it's a few years old now, but yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not a good book.
No, not at all. Yeah. If age predicated how good a book was, then wow, there's some old books that would be considered terrible now.
Absolutely. So true. So true. Awesome. So yeah, please let us know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like about the show. Let us know if you have any topic ideas. We're always looking for new ideas to share. And especially we want to hear from you who've been watching the show and who are running your businesses. Let us know what you want to hear and we'll totally dive into it. We're doing them every single week. And like I mentioned, it's going to be every Monday moving forward at this time. So it's 11 a.m. EST. It's 8 a.m. What is that? PST?
Yeah, PST, yeah.
BC time. But we'll be here every single week. So yeah, please let us know in the chat what you'd like to hear, and we'll see you next Monday. And thank you all again so much for joining us.